So we're from walkerwiki.com.
Sweet.
And so first and foremost, I just wanted to know, can you tell us about your character, Trevor Strand, and what drew you to the role?
So something super interesting about Trevor was I loved his story. I loved how my dad and my love interest dad also kind of have this really bad history, and trying to piece together how to make that work for Trevor. I feel like there's a lot of different interests and ideas in mind of what I have or what Trevor has for his life and what his dad has for his life. So it's going to be super interesting to kind of see how those paths collide. And I feel like Stella was kind of right in the center of it.
Okay, so you knew from the get-go then that Clint West was your dad?
So I kind of, in the audition scripts, it hinted towards it didn't say the characters at all, but it just kind of hinted towards my dad being put in jail because of Walker. And I was like, okay, interesting. So I kind of already knew that my dad was going to go to jail. I didn't know who my dad was, but I already knew that there was going to be some pretty heavy conflict in that area.
So how do you think this revelation of Clint West being the dad is going to affect Trevor's relationship with Stella? Because we've already seen a bit of that.
Yes, and trust me, it gets crazier. Not without putting in spoilers, but I think it's going to be interesting because one of Trevor's biggest things is he wants to make his dad proud, especially since his mom is gone. He really wants to keep his family alive and to have that close relationship with his dad. But I also think what I said earlier was it'll kind of collide with his own interests and becoming his own man. And I think that it's kind of going to be like a love for his father and then a love for Stella. And it's going to, we'll see what happens. You guys will see what happens. I've just heard what's going to happen in the next coming episode. So it's going to be really interesting.
Okay. So do you think that he's going to be conflicted, or do you think his loyalties are going to shift maybe?
I think a little bit of both without giving too much. I think,
yes, no spoilers.
Yes, I definitely think that he's definitely conflicted, but there is kind of that pull between his love for his dad and his dad's love for him, and he shows it in a very weird way. And then that love for Stella as well. I think it's going to kind of pull back and forth, and eventually it'll kind of come to a breaking point, and you guys will just see what happens.
Okay, can't wait. So we did see in an early episode that Trevor was on horseback. Did you have a lot of riding experience before filming Walker?
So kind of. My grandma owned a barn of like 40 horses, and I would go over there like every weekend and ride and stuff like that. But I didn't ride for quite a few years after that. And so I was like, okay, my sister does horseback riding. And so her trainer was like, sure, giddy on up. Like, let's get on the horse and start riding. And so I trained for like 2 weeks prior to filming in order to be able to ride a horse and gallop and canter and all of that good stuff.
Well, you looked like a natural. So the training paid off.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So the cast of Walker, you all seem to get along so well. What can you tell us about the environment on set?
So really, I mean, everyone talks about this on set. It all starts at the top. Like, it is probably the best set that I've been on, like just positively wise. And everyone has just such a good attitude and is so grateful to be on set, especially with COVID being a thing, and just to be able to work is like such a blessing. But it really starts at the top, and Jared is at the top, and he has been like the most down-to-earth, humble, positive guy that you can imagine. And because of that, it kind of has set the tone for everyone else working. They're like, well, if Jared's going to be like that and he has the most pressure on this film or on this show, like everyone else is kind of just following in suit because it's just such a good attitude on set all the time.
Yeah, I love to hear that. So you did mention COVID. How has that changed the way that production works? Because you've worked on a lot of sets in the past.
Yeah. COVID has really been an interesting problem to work around. There's definitely still things like scenes and stuff like that, like intimacy scenes where they are having a hard time trying to get people to be intimate on camera without without getting through any like weird COVID laws or anything like that. So it's been definitely an interesting problem to work around, but I think that the set has done a really amazing job at just being super precautious and taking a lot of caution in what they're doing, and just making sure everyone is healthy, and that's like super awesome to be able to work with that.
That's great. So we know that you are an avid soccer fan, and in the most recent episode, there was a soccer game in Laredo. We were just wondering, did you have the opportunity to play at all while you were filming or between takes?
Oh my goodness, yeah. So what was funny was the next day, Jared was like, "Hey, what is like your next favorite passion that you really like?" And I was like, "Soccer. I've pretty much been living the dream all week. Like we got to play soccer on set in the middle of this dirt fields, like in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and they set up all these goals and stuff, and we were playing for hours, like in between every single take we were playing soccer and just having a blast. And a lot of the people there on the field were actually from UT, and they played soccer as well. So it was just a really fun environment, and to play soccer with the cast, and even some of the directors and PAs were hopping in on it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Is your favorite team still Manchester United?
So I haven't kept up with soccer in a long time. I'm gonna say yes because I have friends that work for them, just because I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But I know that Manchester fans are diehard.
So you and Violet, you're both alums of Kathy Sullivan's Acting for Film, the studio. Did you two know each other before filming Walker at all?
There were like at least 30 classes every single week going on at the same time, and I did teach at Catherine's for like I want to say like 8 years or something crazy like that. But unfortunately, I think that we kind of missed each other. We were on, so she has classes that are intensives and then classes that are 6 weeks long. The intensive are literally just a week straight of working, and the regular classes are like 1 day of the week for 6 weeks. But what was funny was I didn't know her through Catherine's, but I knew her through a place I used to work at in LA, funnily enough. Like, it was such a small world. And I met her sister, and then her sister introduced us. And it was just so weird. And we didn't remember that until like maybe the second episode of filming. We were like, okay, hold on. You look really familiar. I just can't put my finger on it. And we started talking about it, and we figured out that there's this small place in LA. And we were mind blown. But it is really a small world, especially with Catherine Sullivan students. Like, you will see them everywhere. It's really cool to see people like explore and be successful.
That's cool.
So outside of Walker, where else can fans find you? And just feel free to promote any of your other projects, any upcoming or past.
Yeah, so obviously, probably one of my most favorite things was the Vampire Diaries, where I got to play young Damon, and really it's such a cool, like, the Vampire Diaries community is really cool. Like, I'll still get messages to this day of being like, oh my gosh, I just saw you, I've been looking for you for like this amount of years. And I was like, okay, wow. And it's just, they're really, really nice and supportive. And I think as far as other projects, I have a movie that's coming on DVD called The Unhealer, and it's been touring around doing film festivals and stuff like that and doing pretty well. But besides that, just stay tuned for more things coming up. There's some things in the works right now that's going to be really fun. And yeah, stay tuned.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys wanting the interview, and hit me up anytime.
All right, sounds good.
Great.
It's
Thank
great
you so
talking to you.
much.
Thank you. Have a good day.